Hello and welcome to episode 255 of the official KNOW show. This week we talk about how there's a tease in the new Spider-Man game, how there's controversy with SpaceX, how there's Apple digital movie problems, and Sandrock is here to tease us. Plus, I'll share more details about myself. This and more in this week's show. I'm Kier.
And I'm Alyssa from In Defense Of, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the one you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of the individual hosts and guests.
Be sure to check out all the other podcasts available at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And get ready, because geekiness begins in 3,
2,
1.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Here, we're a bunch of geeks talking about geeky things. Each week, we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Stephen.
But what if I'm in the mood for a T-Swift story?
Chris.
I've heard the X is going to give it to you.
And SP.
That's how we roll on Gonna Geek on Monday night. We get crazy!
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Welcome to episode 255 of the official KNOW show. I am Stephen Jondrew, and with me, of course, is Chris Farrell.
You may call me Spider-Man.
We also have joining us, of course, the one and only Stargate Pioneer.
Hey guys, what's up? It's a Monday and it's a good day.
And we also have joining us the one and only Sandrock. Sandrock, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Thank you for having me today.
All right, SP, on your frame, for those of you who are watching the video side of things, there's a shoulder. There's this shoulder. Wow, now you're reaching into the frame next to you. Can you explain who this guest is?
This guest is my son. He's actually a refugee from Hurricane Florence, and he decided to weather the storm here, which is good because right now he could not get back to Wilmington, North Carolina. It is completely cut off, and he cannot get back.
Yeah, the real reason I only came back was they're going to close all the Taco Bells, and I need my Taco Bell.
You know what? You made the right call. I just got to say that. We don't have a Taco Bell right near me. I have to drive a little bit to get to one, and it is worth it. It is worth it.
All the time.
What do you get? The Enchilada Supreme, Stephen?
I get the leftovers. I don't pay for things. I just go behind the dumpster behind the restaurant. But okay, it's a pleasure to have you on here today, Sandrock. And I hope when you get back, all of your stuff is safe. And more importantly, I hope that all of your friends and family are safe.
Thank you. Yep, me too.
And especially your Star Trek: The Next Generation collection. I hear you have all of it.
Oh, every single piece. Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the news. Here we go. All right, let's kick this off with some Apple talk. For those of you who have not checked out the show before, I'll just go off by saying that we are a bit of fans here at Apple, more so myself than the other two. I know Sandrock's also a big fan, maybe almost as much of a fan as I am of Apple. And so, as you might imagine, I do a lot of purchasing through Apple, especially movies. No, that's not actually true. I buy all of my movies physical copies because I'm always afraid I'm always afraid that maybe one day I might not be able to get that if all of a sudden something changed. Well, guess what happened? The internet was talking this past week because this is exactly what happened to one person. They did a lot of digital purchases through Apple TV or however they buy their movies through Apple. I don't know. I've never bought one through Apple. And what happened was they all of a sudden could not get a copy of their movie anymore. What? So they reached out to Apple, and Apple said, you know what? We're sorry you can't get that movie you paid for. Here's a couple of free rentals. And of course, the person was not satisfied with that at all. So they took to Twitter, and the world exploded about this. Now, some people started to speculate that maybe this is a licensing thing. Because for those of you not familiar, technically a digital download is licensed different than a physical sale. So this is actually what Apple came out and said, was that the user moved from Australia to Canada, and there was different licensing for digital downloads in Canada. So when they switched over to the Canadian store, they could no longer download these digitally because Apple doesn't have the digital rights within Canada. Now, what Apple did say was if you bought it and you had it downloaded already, you'd still have access to that. It's just you can't get it from the store anymore. So it's worth being aware of, because if you are somebody who hops back and forth all the time, you might run into this, or just be aware that one day, all of a sudden, they might lose that license to distribute it. And if they do, you might be stuck. Chris Farrell, I know that you are a big digital downloader, but you generally, I think you use Google, don't you?
Well, I buy physical copies and redeem the digital token through Vudu, which is linked to my Ultraviolet account, which links to like Disney Movies Anywhere, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, and something else I can't remember. So I deal with stuff that has the Ultraviolet copy.
Oh, okay,
but
that's what I was thinking of.
I'll buy physical because this is the same reason why. I've always been afraid that one day either my account gets screwed up or compromised, I lose all my digital stuff I've gotten, licensing things change, so now all of a sudden I can't watch that copy of Pirates of the Caribbean I have to watch once every 3.5 years to make myself happy or something like that. So I buy most things physically, and I will fully admit when I end up watching some of these movies, I am too lazy to get up off the couch and go over to my DVD shelf, and I will pull up Vudu and stream them because it's almost as good as the disc. Not quite as good, but at least Vudu will let me do Dolby Atmos and 4K HDR.
Okay, fun fact, I actually this past week rediscovered that Edge and Internet Explorer are the only ones that will stream Netflix beyond 720 on your computer, and it's
Correct.
a difference. It is an absolute difference on my PC.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons I have Edge still, is for Netflix and for battery when I'm in a laptop.
So this weekend, the kids were all home and they were like, oh, Solo's out. Why don't you own Solo? Well, first of all, I haven't seen Solo, but I had been planning on buying it. And I was like, oh, is Solo out on Blu-ray or 4K right now? No. You have to buy it digitally. Oh, no. I'm not buying it digitally because this is going to happen someday. So I want the hard copy so I can hold on to it until the last Blu-ray player won't play it.
Exactly. See, that's some of my heartburn right there. This whole thing of, we'll sell it digitally 2 weeks earlier. I'm like, F you. I want the physical copy so I have a backup because I don't trust your digital copy stuff. Yeah, it's great. But say I pick up and move to Germany or something and I run into the same problem this guy did on the internet. The licensing is different. Now I can no longer watch Star Wars or any of my Marvel movies because there's not a license that's accurate. Well, I still bought the disc at least. I can go and rip them and put them on Plex. I can legally do that in most cases because it is my copy. So you can get around it. Of course, doing a 4K Blu-ray rip would probably be difficult and eat up a ton of hard drive space as I think about it.
Well, I gotta say, Sandrock, you are in luck with this news because up until this moment, I was planning on moving into your old room. Your dad didn't know about it, but I was going to come down, take your old room, and live with him. And now, because I have Canadian licenses, I can't do it. So you win.
Wait. Sandrock, let me ask you a question. How do you buy new movies? How do you consume them? How do you get them?
I bum them off my father. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So your father buys them the hard copies, and then he takes the digital redeem code and he goes to Movies Anywhere or Vudu and he redeems them, and then you can stream them from your location halfway across the country.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Like I wouldn't have seen probably about half the new movies I've came out in like the last 2 years. I probably wouldn't even seen if Vudu wasn't a thing because I don't go to movie theaters. I don't really enjoy the movie theater experience anymore, and I'm a college student, so I can't afford to go out and buy these physical copies or really the digital copies either. So being able to stream between family members with Vudu, it's great. And it's really unfortunate that the Apple licensing issue has been brought up. But I did experience a similar experience this year. I took German, and my German teacher recommended us going to the German Netflix. And for one, I did a lot of reading on it, and the Germany Netflix selection is a lot better than the American selection. Like you can get shows like Rick and Morty, and there's a lot more newer TV shows that are out there. But
Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah. And like you can't access it because you're in America. And so I knew a little bit about like VPN vanishers and all that, and to try to make your location appear somewhere else. And so I tried that out to see if I could log into act like I was in Germany to access the Netflix account. But the Netflix has wrote an algorithm or something to disable you doing that. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how, if you know this, but I don't. What is Apple? Did they disable that feature as well, or
being I don't know. That's a good question, and one that I'll find out when I come and live with your dad. So there you go.
It's possible they did. Netflix has invested a lot in looking at IP addresses of known VPNs, because part of their licensing deal in these other countries is the fact they can have Rick and Morty in Germany, but their license doesn't allow them to show it in, say, the United States or the United Kingdom and things like that. So people circumventing those region locks is a problem for them, because they could theoretically lose their license to have those things on there if there was enough people that were circumventing it. So there's a lot of people, if you go online and you can kind of find what the current crop of VPNs are that Netflix hasn't found yet, and you can use that temporarily, but it's really hit or miss. And it's technically against the end user license agreement of Netflix also to do that. So they could terminate your account.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just so people are aware, you are technically violating that.
For Netflix, I've been watching a lot of Hulu lately because unfortunately I think Hulu has a lot better selection than Netflix, so I might be okay with that one.
Wait. Let's step back a second. What account did you log into Germany with? Was it my Netflix account? You could have disabled my Netflix account by logging in VPN to Germany? Oh my gosh.
Oops.
All right. Well, before we end up creating a family drama here and restructure the GonnaGeek.com show, let's go on to our next news point here, which is Chris telling us all about how there might be a teaser. And I'll just go full screen so that the two of those guys can fight and just, get their anger out.
Fair enough. So Marvel's Spider-Man just came out for PlayStation 4, I want to say almost 2 weeks ago now. And for those that have not followed the drama on one of my other shows, I was hemming and hawing. My other co-hosts were like, you want to play Spider-Man, you got to get a PS4. I held strong until the day after the game came out when my fiance went, you like Spider-Man? Why haven't you bought a PlayStation 4 to play it? And I totally was weak then, bought a PlayStation 4 and have been playing Marvel Spider-Man a ton. And why did I have to do that? Because it's an exclusive to Sony's PlayStation 4, developed by Insomniac Games. It is a phenomenal game. I have greatly enjoyed it. I have not finished it. My co-hosts on the All Things Good and Dirty podcast, I think they all beat it this weekend. Willie's already platinumed the trophy on there, which is insane to me. But there is a ton of stuff that goes on in the game. And one of the things that's interesting in this game is this take on Spider-Man has a Twitter account that he maintains in-game called NYC Wallcrawler. And people post tweets to him, post screenshots of stuff they've seen of Spider-Man, and he comments on things. Well, there was a post that showed up on Spider-Man's feed. Someone caught it and tweeted it out. It is a tweet written under the name of IG Ted Price. For those that aren't familiar, Insomniac Games CEO goes by the name of Ted Price. This tweet says, hey, did you hear Insomniac Games is announcing a new game next week? So it has people going, ooh, Marvel Spider-Man was really good. From what I've heard, it ends on a definite note of here's what we do in a sequel. Folks are starting to go, are we going to find out like in a week that they've greenlit the sequel and get some announcement on it? I have no idea, but I like the conspiracy theorizing that's going on. And it's cool stuff like that in game that gets people speculating on, ooh, what's going on? And starts this online buzz that is fun versus the online buzz we tend to get lately, which is people just crapping on things. So kudos to the folks over at Insomniac Games for one, developing an incredible game, and two, finding a way to keep teasing people of more stuff coming down the line by using their version of Twitter that's in-game. It's awesome. I will post a screenshot to that in the chat so you guys can go and view that for yourself.
Chris, last week you talked about an Easter egg in the game. Have you run across that Easter egg yet?
Which one? The Stan Lee one?
No, the one about the proposal.
Oh, yeah, yes. I have found that one, and it has not been patched out. I forgot I talked about that last week on here, but yes, that's another one of the cool little Easter eggs and things that's going on in there is the marriage proposal that didn't actually happen because they waited too long and the woman left him to date his brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was harsh.
Good thing I don't have a brother.
Yes. They are
what
talking
I
about
said.
patching that out. They asked if they wanted that to happen, but the guy who made the request said he was kind of okay with them not patching it out, so we'll see what happens.
Sandrock, have you played this game yet?
You know, I played the game a little bit last night, and I spent like an hour or two playing it today. And I love Spider-Man. I love all the Marvel, love all the comics. But unfortunately, I wasn't in love with the Spider-Man game. I just felt like it was a lot of button smash, and I should really play the game to get the storyline of Spider-Man. But I didn't fall in love with the game. I'm maybe if I play it more, I'll get more attached to it. But right off the bat, it felt like a lot of button smashing to me, and I don't really enjoy those type of games.
You know, the problem I had with the game was it didn't explain Spider-Man's origin story. So,
The problem you had with the game is you have a PS3 and it didn't work on there.
all right. Well, let's find out a little bit about some controversy. SB, what's going on here? Why is there controversy? What did you do to SpaceX? How did you break it?
It's not me. It's Elon. So here's what happened a couple of days ago, about 4 days ago, actually, SpaceX on their Twitter account said they have signed the world's first private passenger to fly around the moon aboard our BFR launch vehicle, an important step towards enabling access for everyday people who dream of traveling to space. Find out who's flying and why on Monday, September 17th. Oddly enough, it's actually during this podcast recording, so I don't have an answer on who it is right now. However,
You're not keeping an eye open on the stream with closed captioning on?
dude, I have so much going on right now that no, I do not have the stream going on, but I'll check it out later. Anyway, Dana Hall, who is a Bloomberg reporter and follows Tesla, SpaceX technology and sort of stuff like that, she got on her Twitter account about 3 hours later on the 13th of September and said, SpaceX first announced tourists in 2017. Back then, it was 2 people. So SpaceX said first ever, but we had a couple before. So there's a little bit of controversy about this announcement. I have a little bit more information. I don't have who it is, but I have a little bit more about the announcement here. So tonight, as we're recording, it's going to be a big night for space tourism. The private space flight company SpaceX will reveal its first passenger for a trip around the moon on the company's massive BFR rocket. And you can watch it live, all online. And if you're watching the show right now, you're not watching it live. SpaceX will unveil its BFR rocket passenger. And the name, by the way, stands for Big Falcon Rocket, not Big Effin' Rocket, as you might think, or it originally was, in a webcast on September 17th at its Hawthorne, California headquarters. As you await SpaceX's big announcement, do remember that the company has made an announcement like this before. In 2017, Elon Musk announced that SpaceX would launch 2 passengers around the moon as early as this year using its heavy lift Falcon Heavy rocket and manned Dragon spacecraft. But when SpaceX launched its first Falcon Heavy flight in February, Musk said those plans had changed and SpaceX would not pursue a manned version of the Falcon Heavy rocket. Instead, the company would focus on the BFR for future flights. In May, SpaceX confirmed it would not be flying its passenger moon flight this year to the Washington Post. So this was already known that they wouldn't be doing it this year. Musk has said the manned spacecraft could potentially begin making unpiloted suborbital test stops at SpaceX's rocket proving grounds in Texas in 2019. The company might base those tests as its newest site near Brownsville, Texas, which has a lot of empty space in case of a failure. SpaceX has a lot of failures. They have a lot of successes, but they have a lot of failures. And of course, SpaceX still has to actually build the BFR. Earlier this year, when we talked about it here on Gonna Geek, the company signed a deal with the Port of Los Angeles for space to build a facility to build its BFR rockets. And we were talking about how they were actually going to get the rockets from California to the launch sites in Florida. So lots of stuff going on with SpaceX. Apparently tonight they're going to announce the first passenger. We'll see who it is next week.
I've not heard of any other controversy with SpaceX at all. Nothing with any Joe Rogan or nothing. Nope.
No, Joe, we talked about this last week.
No idea what you're talking about. No idea.
Of course, Elon apparently doesn't. So the long and the short of it is, in the past week, the U.S. Air Force has announced that they may or may not be investigating Elon Musk for indulging, because marijuana apparently is a federal crime because it's not legal federally, versus in a state it could be legal. So if you happen to be working for the federal government, or you happen to have a contract with the federal government, specifically the DoD, you might want to back off on that marijuana use.
U.S. federal government. Canada
Yes, United States of America.
Well, thank you for telling us about the latest controversy with SpaceX. It just sounds like this is you're going to be your news article every week. It's just going to be dogging on SpaceX. Last week you took shots saying they weren't reputable. This week it's about other things. Like, what's going on?
Well, again, Elon Musk gets results. Like, what has Boeing done to compare to what SpaceX has done? Like, Boeing last week was basically saying, hey, look, we have a space capsule, because SpaceX is outpacing them. However, a lot of people in the industry will tell you that SpaceX is skirting flight safety quite a bit. So there's a little bit discomfort as to what they're doing. Again, they're getting results. It's just they have to get a lot better with their flight safety with manned versions of their rockets.
Okay. This time you win.
Only this time, though. Next time, you don't win.
And next time I go up against Neil deGrasse Tyson and Pluto is not a planet anymore. Again.
Just bust out the boxing gloves. That's how we'll solve that one.
All right, Sandrock. What is this tease that you speak of in your news article? What's that about today?
So it's a rumor from Bethesda Gaming, and basically it was teasing the future about new consoles coming out. And I thought it was really interesting. I mean, they didn't announce any consoles were being released, but they did mention, or I guess acknowledge, that companies like Microsoft and Sony have approached them for developing new consoles so they can start, I guess, the software development for new games for those consoles. And it was really interesting because it wasn't hyped up about a new console. One thing I really liked about the CEO's comment about this, the new gaming consoles, was, there's a big graphics jump from PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, and like that, the original Xbox up to the Xbox 360. And there was a tremendous graphic adjustment. You could really notice the details. But when there was a jump from, Xbox 360 to Xbox One and the PS3 to the PS4, a lot of people, unless you're a true gamer and can visually see those details and you know what you're looking for, a lot of people, you couldn't tell the difference. They're like, oh, okay, it looks really good, and they kept playing the game. And so I feel like that's really interesting because it brought up the point of, hey, you're bringing out this new console, but is it really going to be new, or is it just going to be a better, I guess you could say, a better computer to run your games, rather, bringing more software to make the game actually more realistic. I mean, the games are really realistic now, but you're always, your virtual reality is coming out, so you're having to compete with that. So I think it's going to be interesting what kind of jump we see in this next era of consoles. And then it also brought up the point with new consoles coming out, is if the developing for the games are going to increase, and which along with that are the game prices going to increase with that. And he made a really good point in that all these games that are coming out, you could have maybe a couple hundred people working on a game like Fallout, or you could have maybe like 50 or 60 people working on a simpler game, maybe not an open world game, but still a really good game, and still produce AAA quality content. And And so he basically nullified the point of what I don't think the new era of consoles coming out is going to increase the selling point for games. I think what he kind of mentioned with that comment was that, you know, the games that require more software developers and more graphic people, they might go up more in the future to kind of combat, you know, all that resources and development that goes along with these games. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought it was a good point. But you know, basically there's nothing announced with this. It's just rumors. And but I thought it was really cool, the new talk for the next era of game consoles. And in another part of it is the timeline. You know, I got my, so this is all the way back in the day. I got my Xbox 360 when I was probably like, I don't know, maybe 13 or 14 years old. And I had that all the way up until my senior year of high school. So that was about 5-6 years. And I got the Xbox 360 late, so it's already been out years before I had it. And then when I get this Xbox One, you know, my senior year of high school, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're already talking about bringing up a new game console. I think it pushes the issue of, are they releasing these too fast? Because I remember when I purchased my Xbox One, and it was like pushing on the border of $500. And, you know, I mean, you might think of $500 not being a lot, especially when you compare the prices of phones nowadays, but still every, you know, 5 or 6 years dropping $500 on a gaming console, and probably even more as, you know, you got economics and inflation that go along with it. So I don't know. I think it's, I'm skeptical of whether they're releasing these consoles too fast, and whether the quality is going to come with it, or if it's really just a marketing scheme to make more money. So I don't know.
So it's interesting you bring up the release schedule of consoles, and that also comes into play of what games can you play. There was a rumor that was going around, I think a bunch of sites picked it up, that Microsoft was actually looking at doing 2 to 3 different consoles in their next generation, one of which would be the super beefy hardware, and then their entry-level one, which for lack of a better term would be kind of a dumb box with a little bit of processing power that then relies on a cloud connection, like Microsoft has touted wanting to do, going back to their Azure servers, and does all of the processing and rendering in the cloud and pushes it down the internet to your dumb box, for lack of a better term. So that's one of the approaches Microsoft is taking. At the same time, Phil Spencer, who heads up the games division, has made a big point of saying, we see it that an Xbox game should play on all the Xboxes. I mean, and go and look at what they're doing now. Xbox Original, Xbox 360, and Xbox One games will play on an Xbox One device. So my hope is, as Microsoft builds towards their new version of the Xbox, they continue to embrace that so that your game library is still playable. That's going to be a huge differentiator for them if they can pull that off come this next generation of consoles. But I do think it's coming a little too quick, because in today's world, we're kind of pegged on the hardware side. I mean, things look cool. I've got 4K HDR consoles. They look great, but what are you going to do that makes it better, that makes me think I need a new console? I don't care about VR, honestly, unless you can give me wireless VR like they've done with the HTC Vive with an upgrade. I don't want to have to run cables across my house and back up into my entertainment center. So when it comes to this new console, there has to be something other than just saying, well, if you want to play Halo 6 and Spider-Man 2, you have to buy a new console. Those aren't enough to make me do it at this point in time, because I've spent too much money on this generation of consoles.
Well, I think the visual thing was a really good comment as well, because like I remember when I went from regular SD to HD, it was like, holy cow, what a difference. When I ended up seeing, I don't have it yet, but when I've seen HD to 4K, just regular, like not all the stuff they've done in the recent couple of years, but the original 4K, it was like, yeah, this is cool, but I don't feel like I need it. So, you know, you gotta have that next level of, oh, wow, I gotta see this, I gotta have this. And some of those visuals that you see between the different generations or the half generations, they're not there.
So HD to 4K, that wasn't the big deal when I saw that difference. HD to 4K HDR, that's where the world of difference is. That HDR appearance of movies, of video games, anything like that, it's beautiful. It pops. It's so much different. And you can tell from a distance that something is HDR. You can't tell at a distance the difference between 1080p and 4K. Your eyes aren't that sharp. If you're standing back 12 feet, it all looks about the same to you. But if you're standing back 12 feet, you will definitely be able to tell if it's HDR because of how vivid the colors are. That's the big differentiator, I think.
Another differentiation in the consoles has been refresh rate. Like if you have a 60 hertz machine versus a 120 hertz machine, that's actually a big difference. A 240 hertz machine is even a bigger difference still. And personally, I prefer to go all the way up. So basically, Chris, what you're saying is like the Xbox 360 is like the iPhone 7. The Xbox One is like the iPhone 8. The Xbox S is like the iPhone 10, and the next generation Xbox is going to be the whatever, the 10s Max.
Oh my, you just equated Xboxes to iPhones, and somewhere fanboys are melting down as you speak.
You know, I really like that analogy though, because I'll say this. So I've been playing a lot of PUBG on Xbox One, right? And there's a lot of, you know, PUBG, Fortnite, all these battle royale games. They're what's pretty much everybody wants to play. At least a lot of people in college that I experienced. And one of the biggest problems people have with PUBG is that the refresh rate, like, sometimes it won't load. It'll kick you out of the game, and it'll just lag because there's so much memory and detail in the game that it basically uses up all your Xbox One compatibilities. So I hope what they don't do with these new consoles is just beef up the hardware in it, like you guys were saying. I mean, it's cool. It'll be much beneficial to run the games a lot smoother, but it needs to be something more than just hardware for me, I think, to get a new console at this point.
I believe they actually downgraded the most recent version of PUBG because it ran so much like poop on the Xbox One X. That's something I'd seen online.
I actually just played a game before we started this, and I played the new map Sandhook, and I played one of the old maps, but the new map that they came out with, Sandhook, it ran great. The colors were very cool. They were on point. The game ran really good, but I played 2 games, and the second game I went back to one of the original map, and immediately I started to lag in it. And I was like, man, that's so funky. So I don't, I hope the software is kind of keep that in mind too, of that, what most people's consoles can handle. I mean, it's great that we're going up in this, but I mean, you don't want a game that'll kick you out, you know, every 3 times that you're playing it.
Sandrock, tell everybody why you were going back to play PUBG.
Oh, all right. So, I have a pet bird, and my roommate, he got a pet rabbit, and I was out on vacation and everything, and I come back home, and you know, I go to start playing PUBG, and anybody that really plays PUBG, I mean, you can play PUBG solo and be okay, but if you want to do squads or duos, you really need a microphone to play it, because you really need that real-time communication when you're playing it, because the game is so realistic in that aspect. But I went to go put on my headset, right? And so I take my controller and I plug in the adapter piece to it, and then I put on my headset, and I go to talk to my friend and stuff, and he wasn't hearing it. So I went on the cord. I was like looking to see if there's a kink or something was wrong with the cord that was going to it. And apparently the rabbit got a hold of it and chewed up the cord. And so I already dropped $30 on the okay. So we're getting into this. This very upset me about Microsoft. No, it really did. So I got the Xbox One really when it first came out, and I got an extra controller. So I had 2 controllers, and I had the Xbox One, and I had just the basic headset. And so, you know, maybe a couple months ago, my headset just broke. It just wasn't working anymore, like a lot of the basic ones do after a while. So I went to Walmart to get, you know, just the cheap version of the headset for Xbox One. And I bought it, and I brought it home to so I could play. And I go to plug it in to my controller, and it's using a 3.5 millimeter jack. And I was like, what? This isn't going to fit. And so that's what she said.
Nice preemptive strike.
Yeah. And so I looked on the box. I was like, man, they must have put it in the wrong label section or, misplaced it. And on the box, it said Xbox One compatible. And so I was like, okay. So I went to Walmart and returned it. And of course, anything that Walmart does to frustrate me, I just leave a Walmart because, that's just Wally Mart for you. And then so I hopped over to GameStop and I was like, okay, so I bought this headset from Walmart and it didn't fit my controller, but I want to get a new headset. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, Microsoft decided to come out with their newer controllers to be a 3.5 millimeter jack instead of the original, 3-prong adapter that they originally came out for the Xbox One. And I was like, are you really, like, you're going to bring out a new console and then change like half of the controller? Like, I mean, and so anyways, they're like, oh, well, you could buy a new $60 controller and get like the $15 headset. I was like, well, that's going to be $75. I would just rather buy a $75 headset that would fit my controller. And so, but I live on a budget and I can't really afford that. And so I was like, okay, well, what's the cheapest that that I can walk out here with and still use a headset? And they're like, well, we have this refurbished one, but it's $30. So just for the very basic headset, I had to pay $30. And, for the basic headset that you could really use your Apple headphones for, really any other headphone. And it just really frustrated me on that fact, because when I'm a student and just trying to do that marketing adjustment or whatever they decided to do, it just really frustrated me because, something that simple, why couldn't you just come out with it in the first place and just save the hassle altogether?
See, the interesting thing is they shifted to that change because people got so mad at them about the proprietary connection that they wanted a 3.5 millimeter jack so they could use any of their headphone devices. So when they did the refresh the controllers that basically added Bluetooth support and the new Wi-Fi connect that they use for doing stuff, they refreshed do the 3.5 millimeter, but it also has a jack that will support the legacy. So that's what happened there. It's totally frustrating. I get it. But this is one of their damned if they do, damned if they don't, because they made a bad decision to begin with on doing a proprietary jack. So it's either they stick to their guns on that or they change it and then hopefully make people less angry with them.
Or they could, offer an adapter of some form like every other company that's ever made a change.
There's a guy that said, oh, you can get an adapter for it, but I think the adapter piece for the Xbox One, I might be really wrong about this because it was a while ago, but I thought it was like $20 to $30 just for the adapter alone. So it was going to be $60 regardless. I was like, yeah. So
I can't get a 3.5 millimeter jack on my cell phone, and yet their 3.5 millimeter jack on the freaking controller. Go figure. But anyway, that doesn't complete the story. Sandrock, why don't you tell everybody why tonight you were back to playing PUBG?
Oh, okay. So so my dad unexpectedly bought me the I don't know what
Playtronics 800.
Okay, yep, the Playtronics 800, and he bought me that headset. So I was playing it and trying it out, and it has the in-game surround sound and everything. And for one, the headset is the most comfortable headset I've ever owned to play video games. And second, the quality is on point. Like all the surround sound is great. The tone, the volume it's all there. And then adjusting back and forth between the in-game chat and the and just the game music and sounds, it's exactly what I was looking for, and I'm very pleased. I really haven't had a headset that performed as well as these, and I've only played 2 games of PUBG with it, but that's spending almost like an hour and a half of playtime wearing them. So wearing them for just an hour and a half, I was ecstatic with them, and yeah, they're great.
So the moral of the story is that hurricanes make dad buy you a headset. Is that right?
That is correct.
There was an extra deal there, but also it's almost like somebody did a review of that headset on the Gonna Geek Gear channel.
Oh yeah, that's right. Which you can go to youtube.com/GonnaGeekGear to find out.
Shameless self-promotion.
That was the whole purpose of the story, wasn't it, SP? Just to get that in there, wasn't it?
That was totally the whole purpose, yeah.
I didn't know about this beforehand.
Obviously, Gonna Geek Gear, you need to subscribe to it, buddy.
You just ruined the surprise, Steven. Way to go.
After the podcast, SP is going to be like, now give me those headsets back. Now that
I wanted that.
All right. Well, moving on to the extra section here. Just a couple of quick picks here. Number one, first off, it looks like there are rumors for how many new Amazon Voice Services devices? 8, apparently. That's right. Apparently, Amazon might be looking to offer 8 new A-word devices, and this is being cited as at least 8, including a microwave oven, an amplifier, a subwoofer, some in-car gadgets, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Apparently, they're looking to put Amazon, you know what, everywhere, which makes sense because like we've seen this even with that little thing that you reviewed on here, that cheap little thing that you reviewed, Chris. What was that little thing you could talk
the dash wand.
Yeah, the dash wand, right?
That thing's pretty awesome.
Exactly. It just goes to show how you could shove this into a bunch of different places and actually get use, especially because so many people are now integrating this in with like their home electronics and their automation and whatnot. So, you know, I think it makes sense because you don't necessarily need, like, I don't need so much a smart coffee maker, but if I had a coffee maker that had it built in, I might have a use for that because it would control the rest of my Amazon, the stuff tied into my Amazon voice services. So I think that it's interesting to see, and I can't wait to see what they try to launch because they have launched a lot of poop.
I can't wait to see all the people on the internet complain about Big Brother. And I'm like, you're on Facebook and Twitter complaining about this. Don't you see the irony?
Exactly. SP, as the person here who has an Amazon show, right? You have a show, right?
I have one too.
Oh, the Amazon
That's
Look.
right.
Sorry, you have an Amazon Look, right?
No, we placed the Look in your bedroom, Steve.
Okay, fair enough. No, you also, just like Chris, were early adopters of the Amazon Voice Services devices. What's your thoughts on this?
Microwave oven, I can only think of Alexa, please microwave the cat. I mean,
Oh
it's
my
just
God!
Oh,
Wow!
SP just
be
killed a
stupid.
cat, everyone. He just killed a cat.
No, it's not going to be me. It's going to be like kids, and it's just not going to be. It's not going to be good. I
But
am very
you
hesitant
literally
about
just triggered it.
giving
Triggered.
giving the Amazon personal assistant device the ability to nuke stuff. I mean, come on, guys. You see where this is going?
No, I don't know that I agree with being able to trigger your microwave remotely. I think it's a big safety issue, but I could see there being a use for it because of the fact that like it's in your kitchen, right?
Well-
A lot of people don't want to put an extra device, but it's in your kitchen. So if you're using the interactive method, right, it's right there above your stove and other things to ask it for like recipes and whatnot. So I could
Hold
see
on.
that being helpful.
Hold on, though.
Dude.
Just because it's integrated in your microwave doesn't necessarily mean it would control your microwave. It could just
Fair.
simply be this has power and is generally a central place in the kitchen. So why don't we put a device in it that can just do the regular Amazon stuff? Not tell it to microwave this for 3.5 minutes, but as long as it's not my cat.
You'd want it to stop it, though. I mean, how many times have you been in the kitchen doing something and you need your TV to do something like mute or stop or turn on, turn off, whatever, because your hands are dirty, you're making stuff, and if you have a TV nearby that's controlled by it, I could see that. I could see from a safety standpoint telling it to stop. I could see that, but not start. That is totally inappropriate. And as far as appropriate appliances, a refrigerator is far better off than a microwave to put this in.
Samsung already did that. It has Bixby in it now.
But Amazon doesn't have it in there, so they should do their own.
So,
true.
you know, my new thing that I've started to do with these fridges that have like displays and browsers on them is like I'll go to Home Depot and I'll start loading up a website. I haven't shamelessly self-promoted yet, but like I went and I was at Home Depot. I loaded up the Story Behind podcast website and just left it there. Took a picture, tweeted it as well. So, you know, it's a great promotion tool. It's a big display in a retail center. It's free advertisement. Just go ahead, open up the browser.
Have you guys seen the HBO series Silicon Valley?
No.
Yes. No, I'm not
Yes.
caught up, but I've watched a lot of it.
Oh, okay. Well, oh man, I don't want to spoil this for you. So, oh man, I really want it because it would go great along this, but I won't if you're watching it.
Well, those of you who have know what he's talking about and get the reference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hopefully, yeah.
Just like your Star Trek Voyager reference last week.
People got it. We got a tweet about it.
One person got it.
And finally, in our extra section here, guess what? Looks like Sandrock's getting more games because he's just got to go and convince Dad to buy a Xbox Game Pass because Microsoft is saying that it has been a success. That's right. For those of you not familiar, the Xbox Game Pass has been described as the Netflix for video games. And recently, CFO Amy Hood said that the service is doing quite well, calling it a, quote, early success. So for those of you who do have Game Pass, this is a really good sign. And make sure you tweet at Stargate Pioneer and say, please help your son out.
You know, I've even seen the Game Pass being promoted on the Xbox, game store, and my interest didn't catch on with it. We already have game websites like GameFly and stuff. If you really wanted to rent a game for a little bit. And I mean, I think it's cool that Xbox is trying to offer a more a less financial deal with their games, but it's just not intriguing. I want to play the games when I want to play them, and I don't really want to have a selected versions of the games that I can play. Like when I first noticed it, I took a look on it, and there wasn't really any games that really piqued my interest in it. So I would just rather stick with getting like 1 or 2 games and just playing those for a couple months until I get tired of them. And then just wait till a new game comes out and that I can play that and just repeat the process, because I really like to get involved with my games, and I like to play them to the full extent, because that's I played a lot of games and I know which games I don't like and what games I do like. Like I tried to play Fallout 4 before, and I really a lot of the Fallout games, and I just never really got into them. But a game like Skyrim, I really like that. So I don't know. I'm not in love with the whole Game Pass idea. I think it's a cool idea, but just for me, I'm not all about it.
So where they almost got me with Game Pass, and I've considered, I haven't done it just because I have a huge backlog I need to play right now, is all of the first-party Microsoft games, day and date, release on Game Pass. So when Sea of Thieves dropped, the day it came out, you could either pay $60 in store to get it, or subscribe to Game Pass rather, and play it as part of that subscription. When the next Halo game comes out, when the next Gears of War game comes out, all of the first-party Microsoft games are included in Game Pass. So that's their big selling feature as they get more and more stuff coming forward. But I fully admit, when I first looked at it, it was a lot of older games I didn't care about as much. But I could see if I just now got an Xbox and hadn't bought a bunch of games, Game Pass would be intriguing, because it's $10 a month or something like that, and I can basically play any of those games whenever I want, once they download to my console, of course. So it's intriguing. I don't think people who have owned a console for a while are the intended targets of it. I think it's more new transitionees. I don't know.
Well, then I will amend my plea and say, do not tweet SP asking him to get Sandrock a subscription. Tweet SP and ask him to get Chris a subscription.
There you go. Just PayPal it to me.
Well, you always told me that Chris was like the son you never had.
Yeah, that's true. Chris,
we're trying to make up with the microphone, all right.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our next segment, which is something we've not done for a while. Here we go. All right, this is not only just a segment that we've not done for a while, but it's my favorite segment because it's called Know Your Geek, and this time it's Stephen Jondrew edition version 2. That's right. It's all about me again, and that's why I like this segment, because it's all about me.
Him.
Yeah.
It's always about Stephen.
So the way this works here is it's a little bit of a quiz on the life of Stephen. And what it is we like to do this often when we have guests on and other various times. And what we're going to do today is I have prepared a series of questions. They are multiple choice. There's 3 answers per.
Multiple guessing.
And it is a look back at my life, apparently. And we'll get everybody a chance to say what they think is the correct answer. So let's go ahead and we'll start off with question number 1, which was, when I was younger, I went to a Star Trek convention. I had the opportunity to ask a question. I asked a question. What was it? Was it A, how long does it take to make Neelix's makeup? Or do Neelix's makeup, I should say. B, whether or not we would see the uniforms refreshed in Voyager because they made contact with home. Or C, why did they not call the TV series Enterprise Star Trek Enterprise? So A, B, or C, let's go ahead. Chris, what would you like to say?
This is tough because we know how much Stephen irrationally loves Voyager. And he loaded 2 Voyager questions in there.
All right. So again, A was Neelix's makeup. B was uniform. C was Star Trek Enterprise. Which one are you going to go with?
I'm going to go with uniforms because somehow this came up in a conversation we had this week. So I'm wondering if you just subtly planted a seed in my head.
All right.
B,
so,
uniforms.
So Chris is going with uniforms. SP?
I'll go C.
Which is Star Trek
The
Enterprise.
Enterprise. Yeah.
And how about you, Sandrock?
I'm gonna go with A.
You're going to go A. So we've got a full spread here, and that means that the answer goes to the point, goes to the one and only Chris Farrell. It was indeed about uniforms. That's right. And everybody, of course, laughed because I was quite young at the time, and it was a valid question. They were the superior uniform. For some reason, Voyager could go and replicate 1,000 other things, but when it comes to uniforms, they stuck with the old ones. I know it makes no sense. Half the stuff they replicated, if you're going to do nonsensical replicating, let's make some better uniforms. They were better.
Yeah, didn't they basically friggin' replicate shuttles? Because didn't Voyager somehow have like 17 shuttles when it's all said and done?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yet they couldn't replicate enough food for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So question number 2 was, I once ran a gaming, quote, clan. Was it for A, Counter-Strike, B, Star Trek Elite Force, or C, Star Trek Armada?
I know this one.
All right, Chris, what is it?
Star Trek Armada.
You're going Star Trek Armada? Okay, SP?
C, Star Trek Armada.
Okay.
I made my decision up even before Chris said anything.
All right, Sandrock?
I don't think it's Counter-Strike, so I'm gonna go with C as well.
You guys all do not get a point because while I did play Armada, I never ran a clan. I ran a Elite Force clan, which, by the way, for those of you not familiar with Star Trek Elite Force, it was based on the Quake engine. So it was like Quake, but Star Trek. It was
Don't forget
awesome.
Elite Force 2 also.
That's
came
true.
out. That's right.
Yeah, and do you remember when they did the patch for Elite Force where they took because originally 7 of 9 was voiced by somebody else, some British actor,
And then they put Jerry Ryan
yeah,
in.
then they did this patch that redid all of the voice work with Jerry Ryan.
It was so much better too.
It was.
Once they did that.
All right, so the points remain with 1 for Chris and 0 for everybody else. Question number 3 is, I hosted an evening show on the local radio station for A, 2 weeks, B, 2 hours, or C, I've never hosted an evening radio show.
Ooh.
All right, let's go. Let's start it off with Sandrock this time. Sandrock,
I'm gonna go 2 hours.
you're gonna go 2 hours,
Yeah.
okay?
I am.
How about SP?
I'm going to go, you didn't ever do it.
All right, and Chris Farrell.
I'm going to go, you never did it.
All right, that means that we are at a tie with 1 point each for Chris and for Sandrock, because it was a 2-hour radio show. They had this little contest you could enter, and it was fun because at the time there's a big long wait list, and the guy that was running it was the guy that did my first came and guested on my first podcast. So like as soon as he saw my quote application, he was like, yeah, you're going to do it right away, as well as my co-host. And like, it was a 2-hour show, and I plugged that podcast so much. We did a count. It was like 7 or 8 in like 2 hours.
Did you also talk about the uniforms in Star Trek Voyager and how they needed to upgrade to the current version?
You're right. I did. Yep. All right. So question number 4. As you know, video has always been a large portion of my life. When I was in high school doing a video project, I had a dog run off with which of the following? A, my car keys, B, my hat, or C, my pants?
Oh, I want it to be C really bad.
So let's start with
He's
SP this time.
Canadian.
SP, what is it?
Your pants.
All
We
right.
got to go with the pants.
SP's going with pants. Chris?
Hat.
All right, Chris is going hat. Sandrock?
I'm going pants, man.
It was totally my pants. It was absolutely my pants.
Damn. On the board.
Yeah, we can't. We're doing something. So, by the way, that means that Sandrock's at 2, Chris is at 1, and SP's at 1. We were doing something. Had my pants sitting somewhere like on the back of my friend's car because I was in like I don't remember what I was dressed in at the time. And then we came back, and I was like, wait a minute, where are my pants gone? And then we look off and we see his dog running, and it was almost like a flag right behind him carrying my pants. It was amazing. So there you go. That's what you should do for video right there. All right.
Let's
Stephen,
recreate
podcasting
this.
pantsless since high school.
All right. So number 5, I once almost got banned from a local gaming group for doing which of the following? Was it A, changing my background to a terribly photoshopped wallpaper involving the organizer's profile pictures? B, exploiting a Counter-Strike bug that allowed you to see through walls using MSN Messenger? Or C, creating a batch file that flooded local computers with a net send message that then in turn would pop up a message advertising my website? Which do you think?
You're a hacker. It's C.
All right, so you're going with the batch file? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Sandrock?
I'm pretty sure you could get arrested for that. So I'm gonna go with A.
All right, so you're going with A. All right, and how about Chris?
I was going with MSN Messenger, so that's B.
All right, that means that Sandrock is at 3, and Chris and SP remain at none. I did do the MSN Messenger thing many, many times. It was a really fun Counter-Strike bug. I don't know if anybody remembers this, where when you would get that pop-up, it would all of a sudden, you could see through walls, but it was only the first time it popped up, so you only got one. So my friend and I would do this all the time, where it would be like, I need to see through walls, and the other would be losing, so we just shut down and then message the other one, and then you'd get that. But once it popped up, it was done until you rebooted the game. But I never got caught doing that, so it was the photoshopped wallpaper, and it was just, I just saved my background with a terrible Photoshop, walked away, and they almost kicked me out, so and banned me. So yeah, we got lucky there. All right, so question number 6. When I was in school, which did I print out and paste to my school notebook? Was it A, the cast of Batman and Robin, B, the cast of Star Trek The Next Generation, or C, the cast of Star Wars?
Voyager's not one of the choices.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's start with Chris here on this one.
I'll go Next Gen Cast.
All right, Chris is going Next Gen Cast. How about Sandrock?
I'm gonna go with Star Wars.
All right,
Yeah.
Sandrock's going to go with Star Wars, and how about SP?
I'm gonna go with Star Wars too, just because I want to say Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well,
everybody
none of
loves
you
Star
got
Wars.
a point because
Oh,
it was
dang it.
Batman and Robin. And you should remember that at one point I mentioned on here I had such a thing for Alicia Silverstone, or whatever her name is at the time.
I think we all
Fair.
did.
Yeah, so
Fair.
that
That's fair.
was the reason why. All right, so points remain 3 Sandrock, 1 for SP, 1 for Chris. Next question, number 7. I once held a LAN party. Those of you not familiar with that was essentially a party where a bunch of gamers got together because you had slow internet back then. So you had to get together.
A local area network party,
Exactly.
Stephen.
So you had to get everybody together in a physical room. We didn't want to be, but in order to play that many people one time, you kind of had to be. And so I held a LAN party at my house. Everybody celebrated because one of the following things happened. We all got kicked off of a Battlefield 1942 server. We won first place in a gaming tournament, or we caused the cable modem, not the router, to crash.
Oh, you're celebrating, so you obviously won. So B.
All right, you're going B? Sandrock?
I think I would celebrate if I got kicked off a server.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do that. Yeah, and you know what? Just to throw this out there, I remember as a young child playing. Well, not as a young child, but as teens or 11 years old. I remember playing LAN parties as well. So you're not that old. I still remember doing that. Yeah.
All right. So which one did you go with?
You did not do a LAN party.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, because I would go over to Matt's down the street, and then two of the neighbors would bring their Xbox, and then we would get a couple friends come over.
That's right. When you connected, yeah, that's why you needed the Ethernet cables. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in college, we had to throw a Cat 5 cable out the dormitory window to go down 3 stories to get to the people below us, because at the 5th floor of the tower's dormitory, you were on a separate local area network, so we couldn't play with the folks below us. So we fished Cat 5 cable out the window.
That's awesome. That's way better than my story. That's awesome.
I've got a coworker who, when he was growing up, he had a window that faced his buddy, and they had the driveways that came together. So it was just the driveways that separated the houses, and their windows were facing each other. So they strung the telephone cord. This was not Ethernet cable. So strung telephone cord between the two. They connected the modems to each other, and wouldn't you know it, lightning strike. Because it was the exposed copper cable.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I don't remember what we went with, everybody. Sandrock, what'd you say?
I said, what were the choices?
Okay,
You
so there
voted
was-
getting kicked off,
Kicked off,
because that's what
that
I was
was
about
my
to
kicked
vote
off,
too.
That's what it was. Yeah.
All right. SP said one a
Kicked
tournament.
off.
Chris said kicked off. Okay. It was not. It was because we had so many people playing that we crashed the cable modem. The cable modem itself, all lights lit up, and it was hot. You touched it. It was unbelievably hot. We had that many people running through it. Clearly, too many people going through a consumer modem, and we were all techie geeky people. So we were all excited that we managed to lock up and crash a cable modem.
Impressive.
Yeah. All right. So question number 8, and there's only 9, by the way. So the second to last question. I once made a recap video for a LAN party that had which of the following themes throughout the promo video? Was it A, Star Trek theme, B, Back to the Future themed, or C, X-Files themed? What do you think? Let's go with Chris.
X-Files.
All right, Chris is going X-Files. Sandrock?
Back to the Future.
All right, Back to the Future. And how about SB?
Star Trek. You had a lot of Star Trek stuff that you did.
Nope. That means that Sandrock is at 4, thus the winner. And it was indeed Back to the Future.
Damn.
Back to the Future was a big part of my childhood, man. So as soon as I found a way to do it, I totally did it. It was, I found the music, found the proper title, the text, font, did it all. But let's go with question number 9 anyways, just for S and Gs. And because maybe we can break this tie between Chris and SP at 1. So
This one's worth 5 points.
This is how well we know our network owner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Question number 9. What did I do in my senior year of high school? I convinced the administration to rebuild their website for extra credit. I hacked the library system to check in a book that I lost to avoid a penalty. Or I sold a compilation DVD of my school videos for $15 a pop.
Extra credit.
So extra credit. SP is saying, see, I sold.
Yep.
How about you, Cedric?
I've had my issues with the library, so I'm going to go with B.
Well, you are in luck, Stargate Pioneer, because that means you get the runner-up, because it was indeed I managed to hawk videos for $15 each for no good reason. It was me and my friend. We both did it. It was, I think we made a couple $200 to $300 off of it each. It was fantastic.
This was Steven's first foray into bootlegging.
No, they were our originals.
They were.
Yeah, we never shared the profits with any of the other people that were in it, because we're bad people, of course. But that means
you're never going to be a union then.
That means that Sandrock does indeed know this geek. Stargate Pioneer kind of knows this geek. And Chris, you're just going to have to spend more time with me, man.
Who are you? Oh, you're Steven. I see the name tag now.
Exactly. Well, there you go. That's going to wrap up another episode. Before we wrap up, Sandrock, again, thank you so much for coming on. I know you weren't supposed to be visiting dear old dad, and we kind of invited you last minute on here, and I really appreciate you coming on. It's a lot of fun having you on. I think it's your second appearance, and it was awesome. And I got to say, for those of you podcast and audio gear geeks right now, Sandrock is using the Rode Procaster. This is a microphone that SP and I both own. Gone back and forth on it. Both tried it on different times. I gotta say, you sound phenomenal on it. Sounds really good. Really good fit for your voice.
Thank you very much. And I also want to say thank you for offering me the opportunity to come up on the podcast. I know it was last minute for you guys as well, so I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm glad to be here. It's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, it was fun. Thanks for coming.
And we'll make sure that your dad buys you something else, because we got to get him to buy you something else.
How about a Rode Procaster microphone?
I'll just take this one.
Yeah, you can take that one. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to take it when I go on the run from the whole VPN Netflix.
Yeah, when they shut down SP's Netflix account, you better be running.
I can't watch my Legends of Tomorrow. My Netflix. What? Why is this?
He's gonna send his drones to come after me and find me. So.
All right. Well, SP, do you have anything that you want to plug or promote?
If for talking about audio gear, if you have any interest at all in what we do for podcasting, and you check out also Better Podcasting, you might want to check out my Twitter feed. Because last week I made a new diagram for how I've been really wiring my audio gear for the last couple of years. I said I would do it about 2 years ago, I think, and I just haven't gotten around to it. Well, I did it this past weekend. I put it out there on Twitter. And if you need a higher resolution, I can send it to you as well. But go check that out on my Twitter feed, and you can see the wonderful Mackie Pro FX 16V2 and everything that's connected to it, including a couple of Skype machines, the couple of iPads, one as a soundboard, one as a streaming device to Periscope, the other laptop streaming device to speaker. You can see how it all actually lays out in audio gear. So once again, that's my Twitter feed at Stargate Pioneer.
Awesome. Chris, do you have anything that you want to plug or promote?
Sure. You guys are on Geeks.live right now watching the official GonnaGeek.com show. Well, we are not the only show that streams on Geeks.live. The entire network streams live video shows there. So if you want to catch something else, scroll down to the bottom of the page. You can still hear us while you do that. And you can see the live calendar. This is when all of the other live shows are airing on Geeks.live. So come on back. Check out another show that's airing live on here. I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy yourself.
And I'm just going to take the moment here to say, SP mentioned the Gonna Geek Gear YouTube channel. If you want to check that out, that's youtube.com/GonnaGeekGear. Well, we've got a video on there right now that's going to walk you through using NDI with Skype, should you be interested. So check that out at youtube.com/GonnaGeek if you want to see that video. And hopefully it will help you if you've been thinking about doing that. But that is going to take us to the end of the show. So for episode 255 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Stephen Jondrew saying thanks to everybody who came by our live show tonight. And Sandrock knows this geek.
I'm SP saying we'll see you next week as we talk about the first paying passenger aboard SpaceX's BFR.
And I'm Sandrock, and I'm happy to be here, and I'll see you when I do.
And who's the guy that hosts this show? I don't know who that is. I'm Chris Farrell, by the way.
I don't know, but I hear he's an ass.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.